Mission 1, start! Thank you. Heavy machine gun.
Metal Slug X is a remix version of Metal Slug 2, fixing minor problems the game had, as well as making major changes to the color palette, weapons, and enemy placement. This PlayStation port was released in 2001 and does a remarkable job of recreating the Neo Geo experience. I'm a huge Metal Slug fan and instantly fell in love with the series after playing the first title on my beloved Neo Geo CD. The game is an old-school arcade-style run-and-gun where you pick one of 4 characters and play through 6 intense levels of shooting, chaos, and destruction. The controls are predictably excellent. They are super responsive, the jumping feels great, and you always feel like you have perfect control over what is happening with your character. This is critical, as there are always a relentless amount of enemies on the screen, and substandard controls would ruin the experience. Freeing hostages will often reward you with powerful weapons that make mowing down foes much easier, and infinitely more satisfying. Metal Slug 2 introduced a couple new staples to the arsenal of weapons. This includes a laser, which is incredibly powerful but very focused, and a fire shot that roasts through mummies. Speaking of mummies, the second level takes you through an ancient tomb with hordes of mummies and mummy dogs to fight through. You can catch their curse, however, and turn into a mummy yourself, which alters the way your character controls. It's a great little touch and something that puts Metal Slug a step or two above other run-and-gun games of the era. In addition to becoming mummified, you can become obese if you collect too much food. While obese, your movement is slowed, but the special weapons become larger and more powerful. It's another interesting touch that adds variety to a seemingly simple game. Metal Slug 2 features the introduction of new slugs into the series. The camel slug is as awesome as it sounds, allowing you to ride a camel equipped with a Vulcan cannon. There's also a slug flyer, which allows you to freely fly around the screen. Both are great additions to the series and add more variety to the gameplay.
Oh, big!
Graphically, Metal Slug X is outstanding. I have no doubt that there are altered sprites and missing frames of animation, as the PlayStation doesn't have the RAM necessary for perfect ports of Neo Geo games. But honestly, I'd be hard-pressed to identify what those cuts are. The backgrounds are beautiful, and have that hand-drawn look you would expect from an arcade title. The foreground objects are quite detailed, and a step above most 2D games, even as late as 2001. Most importantly, the levels feel unique from start to finish, with few assets ever repeating too frequently on your journey through them. The variety through the 6 levels is awesome, taking you from the Middle East to Japan and everything in between. As the game progresses, you slowly realize you're taking on a full alien invasion. What used to be your enemies are now fighting at your side. All of the bosses in here are rather impressive, covering large portions of the screen and have challenging, but not impossible, attack patterns. Above all else, Metal Slug X is an incredibly fun game. The responsive controls mean nothing the game throws at you ever feels cheap and unfair. The game is tough for sure, but like most arcade games, you'll slowly memorize how enemies will be presented and start to learn different patterns and nuances. Of all the Metal Slug games I've played, I actually think Metal Slug X might be the best balanced of any game in the series. The game starts off fairly easy, and the difficulty ramps up at a perfect pace through all 6 stages. It seems the later games got much harder, much faster, which can be off-putting. You'll have no problems jumping right in and having a blast. The intense gameplay is augmented by excellent sound effects. Each of the weapons has a heavy sound that makes them feel even more powerful. There is so much chaos on the screen at all times, you'll often forget that there is even a soundtrack here. The soundtrack is of course great, and has a lot more variety than I'm used to. The music in the Middle Eastern stage is vastly different from the urban stages, yet all feels cohesive and is a real treat to listen to. Metal Slug X just might be my favorite game in the series. Something about the progression from beginning to end, the vivid color palettes, and expertly balanced gameplay is simply better here than in later games in the series. This PlayStation version is also very inexpensive, making this a no-brainer. Metal Slug X is fantastic. 4 out of 5.
Thank you. Yeah.